Hello, everyone. This is Dave Strong from the Schmidt Music Saxophone Shop, and today we are honored to have Skerik digitally with us. We're going to do a little interview. If you do not know who Skerik is, you should. He's been involved with a ton of amazing groups over the years. Critters Buggin', Dumpster Funk, True Loves, Garage à Trois, Headhunters, Les Claypool, and the list just keeps going, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. But if you haven't checked him out, check him out. He does some really awesome stuff. So, Skerik, thank you for joining us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's really cool having you here. Boy, let's talk about a few things. You know, you do a bunch of stuff. I've seen you play acoustic stuff. I've seen you play live. I've seen you play in the studio. And at least for me, those all require a really different approach. Like how I sound on a studio thing and how I approach that is way different than when I'm playing a live gig and there's a crowd and that. How would you mind talking a little bit about your approach in all the different contexts that you do?
Sure. I mean, I don't really think of them as different myself. You know, because you're still performing,
yeah,
whether you're in the studio or live. I mean, live, there's an element of humor, I guess, that I like to try and put in there as unpretentiously as possible.
Sure.
Or it's never really planned. I just try and I was really inspired by Dizzy Gillespie and how the stories about him and reading interviews with him about how he used humor as kind of a conduit to people. And especially with instrumental music, I've always had a problem with instrumental music and people taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
So, and it just comes off as just really goofy and pretentious, and you know, it can just look like, oh yeah, look, I'm checking this minor third substitution with my flat five sub, and then I'm doing the scales over the front. You know, it's just like, you know,
I hear you. Yeah.
You know, and you're just, you know, looking so serious all the time, just like, yeah, you know, it's really kind of it just is. Me and several friends of mine just always just thought it was just so ridiculous. So
yeah,
anytime you can just bring light to that subject, I think it brings people closer to the music that you're trying to play. Because even though we're trying to do the same thing, you know, we might be doing some crazy fusion or something, you know.
Yeah.
But if it's somehow delivered with some element of humor or something, I think it goes a long way.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel better about it. So
yeah. Yeah, it's good to hear you say I came up through a jazz upbringing or so educationally, but then you start playing live and you realize there's that kind of educational jazz, and way different, and an audience reacts to what you're talking about, I think, a lot better. So it's cool to see, and from seeing a lot of your live stuff, it is funny. There's some fun stuff there, but it's also really technically cool and good. And so I've seen you on would you mind talking a little bit about your setup on because I've seen you on soprano, tenor, and bari a lot, and kind of how you approach all three of those instruments? Yeah,
well, I've really been focusing the past 20 years on tenor and bari. And that's why I'm really excited with what you guys are starting to do with the Lake City.
Yeah, it's
so
been
these
fun.
Horns are great, and you know, I've always been a Selmer guy.
Me too.
And you know, my horns are from the 60s and the 80s, and unless you're spending a lot of money and getting an overhaul regularly, it's really hard for, I feel like, the older horns to keep up. You know, like playing these new horns it's just so much easier, and it's just made my life easier. And then I don't have to worry about some 40 or 50-year-old solder breaking on the road. You know, we're on a tour. I mean, we're just not sitting around our house playing every day. And I mean, believe me, I've played some balanced actions, you know, that from the 50s or whatever, that were incredible. But but it's, you know, I really enjoy these new horns, and this is the first time I ever had a low A horn.
Oh,
so, the tenor and bari just seem to cover everything I want to hear from the saxophone. I mean, I've never been much of a fan of soprano players or alto players unless it's like Cannonball Adderley on alto or
Yeah.
Maceo.
Yeah.
They just have big tones that seem to just resonate more. And of course, Bird, Charlie Parker. And,
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of alto players, but since the '80s, until now, it's kind of difficult.
It's
But
changed. Yeah.
yeah, and I haven't really appreciated people's approach. But and soprano, I've always just kind of used it in the studio as a stacking tool
Sure.
and creating horn harmonies. But the tenor and Barry can cover a lot of that range. So
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with
I
altissimo.
don't
And
find myself using the soprano a lot. There is there's a really fun cut that Wayne Horvitz, the keyboardist and composer, him and Tucker Martine have this band called My Lab, and they made a recording, I think it was around 2004, 2005, and they had me do the horn section parts and then a solo on soprano, and that came out really nice.
Oh, cool. Cool.
So yeah, really happy about that. And I've done some solos on Fontanelle records too, which are like early 70s Miles electric kind of stuff. They're heavily influenced by that style of composition performance. So it's fun to play the soprano in that context, like channeling that Wayne Shorter, Dave Liebman kind of vibe, like I love that late 60s, early 70s Miles stuff. So
yeah,
it's fun.
Super
and of course,
cool.
Coltrane,
Oh yeah,
and Sidney Bechet and all that. It's just it doesn't come up in my world a lot, but mostly tenor and Barry. That's what I've been really focusing on.
Yeah. I kind of have the same situation going on. I touch the soprano a few times a year, but
Okay.
tenor and Barry. It's I think, like you say, it covers a lot, and it's what a lot of people want. Speaking of some of those examples of stuff you've dubbed, would you mind doing a couple of playing examples and kind of showing some
Sure.
some of that stuff? It'd be cool to hear you on the horns.
Yeah. This is the Lake City Winds tenor.
What's I'm going to nerd out for a second here. What's the rest of the setup? If I remember your tenor mouthpiece, it was a Theo Wani piece, right? Last I heard.
Yeah, this is a Theo Wani, and I love these, and I've been just so lucky to be working really closely with Matt Ambrose.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. Matt is incredibly generous and and just really thoughtful and caring about making these things, what you want, what you need. So I'm really lucky and very, very spoiled to be able to have this custom piece that's basically built off of Durga.
Okay, yeah. If I remember when I talked to you before, you said it was Durga, maybe less baffle in it though.
Yeah, I gave him I was playing a Sugal.
Okay.
I had two different Sugals that Gary had hooked me up with out of his shop in Rhode Island that I really loved for a long time.
Yeah.
And Matt wanted to make me a piece, and I just started playing it and haven't stopped. So
nice.
Yeah, I really
they do great stuff. I play a Berg that Theo did some stuff too, and I don't know if I'll ever change from that one. That might be the one.
Yeah, he's amazing. Theo's amazing. He did a little fine tuning on one of mine once he came down to a gig that Carl Denson and I were playing at in Seattle, and it was great to meet him and watch him do his magic.
It's cool, and he does it so fast, and it looks like he barely changed anything.
Yeah,
he hands you back the piece, and then it's like, holy crap, this thing is
yeah.
It turned an okay
magician.
Mouthpiece into best one I've had. Kind of similar on the inside to that, probably. What do you? I'm getting super nerdy. I know I asked you to play example, but how about like reed setup and tip opening? Are you like, how do you balance that? Because it seems like there's so many different approaches. And
yeah, well, right now I'm a Diodario artist. So
cool. Yeah.
I love these the Reserve.
Sure. Yeah.
3. I use a 3+.
Okay. I was kind of surprised to hear, because that's I would have guessed the Select Jazz, but whatever it is, it's working for you, which is awesome. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I tried them all,
yeah,
and for some reason, this was just I wanted something that was really strong and that lasted long.
sure,
So,
yeah,
I mean, doesn't everybody?
yes, it's a
So,
constant struggle.
yeah. So, this is this is a great, and it works with this setup,
Hmm.
and um, yeah, the reserve. If people are disappointed with reads that aren't lasting as long,
Hmm.
and they're having trouble getting into a stronger reed, try the reserve. It's just the
Hmm.
way that they're cut is just fundamentally different than
Interesting.
the jazz ones, and
Yeah, I'll have
the
to
other.
admit I haven't spent really as much time with those. I kind of wrote them off as oh, I'd probably need the jazz ones, but I'll have to give them a try. And do you normally get a pretty like how long do you get out of a handful of reads? Are you one of those people who plays them all year, or are you a week or two kind of guy?
Oh no, I mean I play very hard,
Hmm.
and just you know it's
Yeah.
it's uh it's a problem. I will go through
Yeah.
reads. And for many years, I've been saving reads that I don't use.
Hmm.
And whenever friends of mine go to certain countries in Africa or Cuba or somewhere, I go, hey, you got room in your suitcase? And I'll
Hmm.
give them boxes of reeds because I hear stories of people playing in certain countries. They're playing on one reed for 6 months, 12 months
Yeah,
or something. I can't
I've
even
heard of that, and
imagine
that
that.
yeah, that's really cool that that you do that, and that's I imagine there is a huge need there because it's probably
I know I want to talk to
impossible.
some companies and see if there are programs in place already for that
It'd
because
be cool.
a lot of saxophone players they don't play all their reeds.
No, I don't.
They
Yeah.
and I was lucky. I had a teacher. I moved to Paris, France when I was 20 years old,
Hmm.
and I had a teacher at the CIM
Hmm.
uh, who taught me that every reed is good,
Yeah.
every reed is playable,
Yeah.
and you just have to work with it. I use that little Reed Geek.
Do you use one of those? Yeah, I just got
Yeah,
one of those.
that guy's
I'm not great
like,
at it yet, but it's really good.
yeah, there are some techniques. You just watch those videos, and he's a great guy, the owner of that company, and
Hmm.
um, it it really helps get things. I tend to overuse it,
Okay.
but I'm trying to get more reserved in my
Yeah.
shapings initially. But if something's a little stiff at first, and I do that, I'll just do it a
Hmm.
little bit and work it in. The
Hmm.
three pluses on the reserve are somehow more forgiving than the threes, just the
Interesting.
regular three. They're
Huh.
completely different. It's like they're a
Yeah.
completely different brand.
Wonder if I wonder if they have a different cut for certain strengths or maybe wood dens or cane density. I don't know.
It's
it's
so
a
strange.
I
I've
have
never seen
found
that.
yeah, I have found what you say though. I've had reads like when you get into the higher strengths, it feels like maybe it's something they're picking different cane for it, but even shaved down, it doesn't seem to compare or it's
Yeah,
different than if you just naturally had it at that strength for stuff and but
it must be a whole different thing from the regular size of the three, the plus,
hmm,
because
interesting.
I had trouble with, sometimes certain threes wouldn't work for me, but I started using these three pluses about 8 months ago,
Hmm.
and 8 or 10 months ago, and every single one has just been good, but they
Hmm.
don't last as long.
Sure, sure.
So
Which
it's
yeah.
like there's a little softer
Hmm.
element in the cane composition than
Hmm.
the three regular, but it is a little stiffer in terms of a
Yeah.
sizing profile.
Sure.
So yeah, getting deep on the reed thing.
you know, surprisingly, a lot of our listeners, people who watch this stuff, I get emails every day about questions like this. So there'll be a fan base who's very excited that we're talking about reeds.
Oh yeah, no, I love hearing about it too.
yeah.
My go-to person, a good friend of mine, is Jeff Coffin,
Yeah. Yeah.
great sax
Oh yeah,
player
he's fantastic.
from Nashville,
Yeah.
and man, he's so generous with his extensive knowledge. And so
Mm.
anytime I'll text him or hey man, what is this? How do I do this?
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome because
He's an endless resource of really great.
Yeah, I've met him once, and he was the nicest guy in the world. So
Have you done an interview with him yet?
you're the first person I've ever interviewed. We've done clinics and master classes,
Oh
but this
wow.
this is our inaugural interview. So maybe in the future if we luck out. But
Well, yeah, you got a captive audience now with the damn
yeah,
pandemic. You know.
yeah. Normally I'd maybe try to wait till you're in town and we could hang out and talk and do stuff. But but we're coming up with all kinds of new ideas and getting out of our comfort zone, and it's fun. It's fun so far. Anyway, I asked you this question like 15 minutes ago, but would you mind playing a little bit on the horn in the setup and we can hear it? Awesome.
Let me adjust my mic a little bit.
Sure.
Hopefully, it's not too loud.
Cool. I'll let you know.
How's that?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds great, man.
I don't know what that was. But...
Hey, that's all right. So, one thing I've been wanted to ask you is your approach to your playing and your improv. Basically, I hear a lot of stuff out of you that I don't hear. You know, there's so much jazz vocabulary, and I'm a bit of a jazz nerd, and a lot of times I can be like, oh, there's that thing, there's that Kenny Garrett thing, there's that Coltrane thing. And sure, we all have that to a degree, but I hear a lot of unique stuff out of you. When I met you before, I got to hear you play for a long time, and there'd just be moments like, man, I've never heard anything like that. And I'm just kind of wondering like who some of your influences are and how, like your creative process a little bit on that. Cause I can't peg you into exactly one kind of sound, which is awesome.
Well, yeah, like I've always, I've had some strange junctures in my educational life and past that always kind of pushed me into non-conventional learning environments.
Sure.
So for instance, after high school, I wanted to go to Cornish here in Seattle, which is the closest thing to kind of a jazz school here. I mean, the University of Washington has a program too, and some community colleges. But because I heard that Carter Jefferson was teaching there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh yeah, I even knew in high school, I was like, okay, I knew that there's someone that I wanted to learn from. But when I went there to go sign up, he had retired or quit or something. So I was really disappointed. And so I just did other things. I took one class there, and I was so lucky because it was a fusion ensemble with Julian Priester.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, like, I mean, all right. So there wasn't a big name like saxophone teacher there, but there was this incredible legend, you know, Julian Priester. He still lives here. He's 83 years old, lives here now. And you know, Duke Ellington, Sun Ra, Herbie Hancock. I mean, what better? So you know, I was so lucky because I'm 18 years old there and playing Maiden Voyage with Julian Priester.
Yeah, dang.
So I don't know if anyone has had that experience when they were young, when you're playing these long unison or harmony lines with a trombone player like that, like tenor sax and trombone.
Sure, yeah.
But playing with a master like that and resonating together and playing these long tones together is just a revelation, you know. And unfortunately, I spent the next like 20 years looking for that feeling again and never got
Yeah.
it.
It's
It's just like,
the
hold on.
few time in a lifetime experiences.
Yeah, it just felt so good, but it's not everyone plays that like him. Not everyone is him, has that experience. So
Yeah.
I went different ways. I always got involved with creative musicians that were that might have studied jazz and might have been, amazing jazz musicians, but wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of experimental music, creative stuff, rock or stuff influenced by modern classical music and stuff. So I don't have a conventional Berklee School of Music kind of jazz syllabus thing going on.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
love the music and I love listening to it.
Absolutely.
And I remember reading a John Zorn quote once where he's he I think he said something to the effect of well, I practice bebop every day but I don't perform it.
I think, yeah, I think I've heard that quote.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that for me. I mean, I love music. To me is a collaborative art, and I love working with people in musical endeavors. So but jazz is, I feel like it takes such an incredible commitment. It's like becoming a symphonic musician.
Yeah.
It is a singular commitment that doesn't allow just 24 hours in a day for much else.
Yeah, that's some truth to that for
So,
sure.
It I don't find it forgiving in that respect. So I never refer to myself as a jazz musician ever, because I
Yeah.
have a lot of respect for people that do take on
Yeah.
that cross.
No, I hear you. I'm more commercial these days, and jazz wouldn't be the first thing I'd say either, although I sure listen to it a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's very inspiring.
So yeah, we were talking about kind of your background in jazz and those influences. Who are some of your? Do you have a lot of non-jazz influences that really help shape your sound? And
Oh
your,
yeah, definitely. Brian Eno had a record label called Opal in the 80s and 90s. It might still be going, but there was a Armenian duduk player, Javan Gasparian,
Okay. Yeah.
and I just loved that. Yeah, he played. It's kind of like a ney, I think. I think it's called a duduk,
Okay.
and it's just so expressive. And like there's some Indian flute players
Yeah.
too, and saxophone players too. Kadiri Golpanath, an Indian Carnatic
check some of that
saxophone
out.
player,
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
But not a lot of, and John Hassell. You know who that is?
I don't. No.
Yeah.
Should be writing these down, but I'll have him on a recording, so I'll have to
Yeah.
check him out.
John Hassell was a trumpet player. He's still alive. Actually, I just donated some money. He's having some health problems right now. But he did a lot of big soundtracks that you've probably heard.
Okay.
And he made some really great records with Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno in the 70s, 80s, I think.
Oh, okay.
And just he used the way he used electronics and harmonizers in particular was, I'd never heard anything like that before.
Okay.
It was a huge inspiration.
Yeah. Interesting.
So keyboardists and composer friends of mine in the 80s and 90s had turned me on to a lot of stuff like that. James Reynolds and local Seattle musicians like that turned me on to a lot of really interesting electronic music like that. So that was really a revelation. So I really love music from around the world. I was really lucky in the 80s to meet a guitar player in Seattle named Leif Tomasek. And he was going back to London. He's like, come to London with me,
Nice. Yeah.
You're too comfortable here in Seattle.
Yeah.
Come out, and believe me, it was not comfortable there.
Yeah,
was awesome.
I've lived out of the UK a little bit myself, so
Yeah. I was definitely broke, living on the street and
Yep.
stuff and busking. But I got to play with all these African bands, and that was
Oh, sure.
a great influence, and that has continued to serve me in an educational way and just a
Yeah.
rhythmic perspective, and I just love that music so much. It was mostly soukous music, Congolese music that I was playing at the time, and
Interesting.
just learning how to play in front of the beat, and everything's in E major.
Sure.
So that's a lot of sharps for B flat tenor saxophone.
Yeah.
So, that was a crazy influence. I just had the very strange influences
Yeah,
in my
well,
life, and
yeah.
and it's great because I feel like the bigger the funnel,
Mm.
the more chances of you having your own sound as a musician.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely, and that explains a lot, kind of what I was saying before. I kept hearing stuff that, like, what is that? I got to figure that out. And I think we all, like you say, we're all a combination of all the players that we've listened to and loved, plus whatever percent is us, and that's kind of, but that makes sense if you're casting that wide of a net, you got a lot to pull from. So super cool.
Yeah. Could talk about that all day.
Yeah, no, it is
sure.
super cool. Hey, would you be cool with talking a little? I know I'm going to go back to the gear stuff here. Talk about your Barry setup a little bit, and kind of maybe your difference in approach between tenor and Barry, because those are my two most frequently played horns too. But I wouldn't say I'm a Barry player that sounds like a Barry player, and I'd love to hear a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Well, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, in terms of jazz, committing to a certain style of music like that, the Barry is a good example of that. So, because when you listen to someone like Ronnie Cuber, and you're just like, how is he doing that? Yeah. That's not physically possible.
Yeah, no kidding.
How is he doing that? It's so incredible, whether it's him with George Benson or the Afro-Cuban stuff he was doing in the 80s and 90s. So, for me, the instrument is more like a utility thing that I use in arranging and writing and horn ensemble recording. But it's so expressive too. Yeah. It's just, I would commit to it full time if I could find a way to travel with it.
Yeah, easier, that is one of the trickiest parts.
Yeah, because I have like these big cases and everything, but it's so expensive to fly with and to check. And then I've had my horns bent in half before, just a little bit.
Yeah,
because of it's very hard to stabilize them. The brass is soft. So, and if it just bends a little bit, all these pads are out of alignment. It's just
I used to always just cringe if I had to check anything. It's like, well, I hope when I get to my gig I can play. And it was always a nightmare. I don't travel nearly as much to play, but so you say you're using big cases and stuff like that. Do you how are the airlines? This is completely non-music related. How have the airlines been lately? And are they pretty forgiving, or are they just, you basically have to pay a lot extra?
Yeah, well, it helps if you get a flight status with a certain airline.
Okay.
So I was lucky because I fly Alaska Airlines a lot out of Seattle. So
sure, yeah.
You get a gold status or something, and then that really helps when you're transporting gear, checking gear.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A lot. But what I started doing was renting Barry saxes when I'm doing one-offs, if I'm flying somewhere and doing a gig. And it's been really fun because that's how I met you.
I was saying that gonna lead perfectly to that's how you get to try this one first. So how's the Lake City Barry been since you've settled in? And I looks like you're on a Theo piece on that as well. At least
this is an amazing Theo piece that Matt Ambrose customized for me, and
I think especially Barry pieces. Their Barry pieces are super killer.
This is based off a Durga 4.
Oh, nice.
And it's this lightweight plastic. You can't believe how light it is.
Oh, is that plastic? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and
Interesting.
it's really
Huh.
an interesting piece. It's very
I'll
long.
have to talk to him. Do you know what the name of the material is or what type of plastic?
I don't. I forget.
No, that's cool. I'll have to ask him because I tried some of their blue ones that they did for a while, and those were actually really good. And I wonder if it's something similar. But
Right,
anyway,
and then there's that person in France that's making those colorful
oh,
pieces.
the shape your own sound ones, right?
Yeah, they have the funky ligature
Yeah, I've
sort of
tried a
over it.
couple. The ones I tried were pretty good. We haven't carried them yet, but I've been kind of poking them to see if they'll work with us and try a few because I'd be interested. It seems like a lot of people are digging them these days, and
Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen a lot of people use them. I first came across it. The Seattle band I played baritone saxophone with, the True Loves.
Mm.
We played a show with Antibalas in Portland in
Okay,
like
yeah,
February or January, and the Barry sax player Martin, he had Martin, sorry,
sorry.
and he had one of those pieces. Like, oh man, check this out, check this out. I was like, it was very interesting, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
this, I really like. I really like this one.
nice.
Turn this
That's awesome, man.
I love
I
having a
could
low A, man.
yeah, yeah. Have you changed how you're writing some stuff now that you have that extra note in there, or is it more just come out in solos and
Oh
stuff?
yeah, it's very challenging, you know, and it's yeah, there's always a C in
Yeah,
music, you know.
yeah.
So when I'm overdubbing, you know, uh, I'll always be looking for, you know, where the low A can be, you know, introduced, you
Yeah.
know. So I'll do a whole pass on a song sometimes that it's just very sporadic, but it's in there
Okay. Yeah.
as long as it's a or above, you know, and I'll do the little passage and just overdub that, even
Hmm.
though some of the other passages, you know, the things that you're going underneath the bury an octave up probably works better,
Hmm.
you know, as in the whole for that section of the song
Hmm.
with the horn overdubs with the horn part section parts.
Hmm.
But just having that low A in there and just having the engineer just mix it in
Oh, sure. Just kind of a
slightly,
hint
it's
of it
really
in
great
enough to.
too. Like I do that when I'm doing big stacking horn arrangements in the studio. I
Hmm.
also like to throw different instruments in there just to blend that are kind of reedy instruments. Like I have
Okay.
a
Interesting.
wooden melodica
Oh,
and a
wow.
really nice Italian accordion.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, if you just blend that in, let's say you have two tenors and two baries
Hmm.
and a soprano part, like five parts on a song, you throw a little bit of accordion in there
Hmm.
and maybe melodica. Usually I just use the accordion.
Hmm.
It seems to blend better. But it just hides in there and it's just this
Yeah.
reedy sound, buzzy sound that it just fits right in there. It's so awesome and it just
Huh.
thickens it
That's
up.
really
And
interesting.
yeah, it's kind of like cooking, you know.
Yeah, yeah, just a little extra spice in there. That's super. I
Yeah.
would have never guessed. Actually, that kind of segue. Would you talk about your overdubbing process, how you approach that, how you choose what to do, and a little more? What you just said there was I never would have guessed. I wouldn't have guessed melodicas in there, but yeah, like what's your approach to that? Like, what are you doing equipment wise? And I know sometimes you'll. Yeah, we could even if you're cool talking about it a little bit, talk about kind of the electronics and some of that stuff that you use.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just all depends on the song.
Hmm,
The song someone sends me. Sometimes they'll have specific ideas, or sometimes they just want me to write something,
sure.
or sometimes it'll start out with just like a solo,
Hmm.
let's say, oh, there's a 16 bar space here. Can you just do a thing here? And what I'll do, I won't listen to it many times before. I'll just put it on and then just record the tenor. Just kind of write what's the first thing that comes in my head. Just play through it and then listen back and like, oh, that works. That's cool. I'll keep that. And then delete that, certain little licks or rhythmic things that hooks up with the band, certain things that are worth saving. And then I'll go back and put some harmonies on it with the tenor, and then go back and put the bari. And then maybe all of a sudden I've just, through improvisation, just created a little horn background track.
Yeah.
And then you go back over it and then solo over that, and it just kind of gives it more substance.
Yeah.
But that's really hard to do today with these. Everyone's making videos, so all my bands are people live in different cities, right?
Yeah.
And so they send you these videos with the audio, and there's no real software where you can multi-track video and audio.
No,
like you can with Pro Tools or Logic or
it's not easy. I've been trying
really,
on some of those myself, and
it's really
I'll either split it or I'll kind of get it into Premiere, and I have a whole setup and it's all janky right now, but it sometimes works.
And if there's no clapboard, people are trying to line up their video and audio with someone else's, and if it's a real deep shuffle or something like that, I'm having problems with that right now with Charlie Hunter and Stanton Moore. We have a band called OG Gat, Original Garage à Trois, and it's it's really hard because you got something really grooving, like a swing shuffle. You can't. What are you going to do? Nudge that a few frames per second? Shuffles are not meant to be nudged. You're like, you got to be in the pocket.
That's absolutely.
It's really frustrating. So I definitely prefer the audio recording.
I hear you. It's
sync all the time.
And then everyone's going to interpret that pocket a little bit different, which is cool live because you can get on each other's wavelength, but doing it remotely is it'll be nice when we can play with each other again. I'm really looking forward to that.
We've got a new record coming out later this year.
I was good.
Really excited about that.
Actually, would you mind talking about that a little bit?
That was we played 4 nights in Seattle last year, January, and on the last day, Sunday, we went into the studio for about 4 hours, and we just banged out this record.
Just in one go, huh?
It's all improvised.
Wow.
But the way those guys improvise, like Charlie, it's completely compositional. So I like that Wayne Shorter quote. What is it? Improvisation is composition sped up. Composition is improvisation slowed down. So that's what was going on there. And so I'm playing a lot of tenor, and sometimes I'll play tenor and keyboards at the same time. So I've got almost an octave there, right? With the G2 up to F3. On the tenor, and then the right hand can play chords or just little single note unison lines or harmony lines. So that's really fun.
That's
that
super
record
cool.
It's just crazy grooves that those guys do, and I'm just staying out of the way, playing these little melodies.
That's awesome. When did you say that album comes out?
It's going to come out on Royal Potato Family, and we don't have a release date yet because of all the COVID.
I suppose so.
Stuff.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
We're kind of waiting to hear what the label says about that.
Nice.
But it's going to be a good one.
That sounds super cool. You don't have a keyboard handy. Can you demonstrate some of the playing?
My stuff's all back there.
Oh yeah, I was wondering if it was the far away one. So
so I don't. Unfortunately, I'm just using the webcam. But I have a YouTube video that I just did. And it's on my YouTube channel.
Oh, I'll link to that.
Check it out. Please subscribe.
Yeah.
But it goes through all the gear, and I demonstrate all the gear, and it's
Yeah.
on, and I do that a little bit on there. You can check it out.
That'd be great. So yeah, I will. I'll leave this part in, even though I asked you something that's far away. But I will link to that. I'll link to your YouTube channel in our description, and people should
Cool.
definitely go
Thanks.
check that out. I'm going to watch that right after we do this. That sounds really
Yeah,
interesting.
man.
Would you mind talking a little bit, give a sneak preview of kind of what does your live electronic setup look like, and what kind of stuff and effects are you working with, and how do you juggle all that? And
Okay. Yeah. Well, I've been getting my stuff kind of more compact, so it makes it more economical and easier to travel with.
Mm.
So I've been a big fan of Eventide stuff
Okay, yeah,
for many years, especially because I'm always looking for the best sounding harmonizers.
okay, sure,
So I love their Eventide Eclipse.
okay,
And in terms of, yeah, the pitch conversion that's really amazing on that.
yeah, that stuff seems like it's come so far. Like,
Yeah, it's, and they've been doing it for like 40, 50 years or something. It's just, I can't even imagine what their $10,000, H9000 or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what that sounds like. But the Eclipse is one that I could afford, and I love it. But I also have the new H9 Max, and that's in my portable rig. And then I also have a pitch factor, time factor, and space.
Okay.
And so in this big rig, which you can see on that YouTube video,
Yeah.
it goes into great detail about all the pedals. Using those things, I love using like octave down on the tenor.
Yeah.
Live, when I want to accentuate something.
Definitely.
Or using that with distortions, very powerful.
Yeah.
Playing some like riff rock kind of stuff. And then, but when I'm using the effects live, it really is just kind of just an accent. I'm really playing 70 to 80% acoustic.
Sure.
So I make sure to have a really good mic. I use this Electro Voice EV 468.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Is a very small mic, and they use a Keen clamp.
Yeah. The Doug Keen invention. Those are really cool. I've not used one. I should. I've known Doug Keen for like 30 years, and I love the idea of using like a legit mic hooked onto your bell. So yeah, shout out to Doug Keen.
Yeah, I don't like the little condenser mics. I'm sure there's a good space for them, but for what I'm doing, driving the effects, you need that full dynamic mic style signal that is not picking up everything on stage like a condenser mic tends to do.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So, and then I use this really amazing FMR, really nice mic pre, and that's a really great sounding mic pre. I also use a Purple Audio mic pre.
Okay.
The Biz.
Cool.
So yeah, those are my mic pre's that I use. Depends on what kind of live gig it is, and I use a Sans amp for distortion, and I use all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm using these Maris pedals now, and Pilot Wave, and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. A lot of that is over my head. I've gotten a little bit into mics and stuff like that, but I know a lot of your fans and people I've talked to who really get into that stuff. It is a absolute rabbit hole as far as like pedals and you were pretty early in on the game as far as sax players, which is really cool.
There wasn't many. I was really depending on a lot of guitar player friends and keyboardists.
I was just going to ask, like, that's who I'd imagine you'd have to get it from because
James
not a lot of resources. Okay,
is a keyboardist and engineer in Seattle who really taught me a lot about electronics, and he really had. It was a lot of patience on his part. And but he really showed me how unity gain works and signal path works, and it's very difficult getting a microphone signal into line level, and to talk well with the pedals when they're engaged or when they're bypassed. Sure, because you don't want your signal jumping around.
Yeah, just kind of balancing it all. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sound person. So, you you really have to work hard at it. You have to have your own monitor at home and really practice with it and getting and recording yourself and getting your stuff even, you know.
Sure, that makes sense. Hey, if you have a little more time, I was just gonna ask, as far as when you sit down and you have practice time, what do you work on the most these days, or how's that changed over time? What does your sit down practice routine look like?
Oh, it's all about long tones.
Yes.
Long tones, and I had a teacher in Seattle named Johnny Jessen,
Hmm.
who is kind of legendary guy. He taught everyone that comes from around here, and he had this thing. So where you just start, let's say you start on your low E,
Hmm.
and then like E, B up a fifth B,
Hmm.
and then the octave E, and back down, and is measures your breath and your dynamics so that you're starting as soft as you can, and then your maximum dynamic is at the octave, let's say the top E2, and by the time you're back down to E1, you're at the quietest dynamic again.
Sure.
It's very challenging.
That sounds difficult.
Yeah, and it's really boring. And when people ask me about stuff, I can see that they're not really interested. And I'm like, look, this will help you play faster.
Yeah,
That's what people don't understand. It's
that.
Playing faster is, practicing fast to play fast is one thing, and I'm not trying to be like a Zen kind of thing. There's something directly connected with your relationship with breath.
Absolutely.
And everything else that follows with a wind instrument. So I'm really lucky because my girlfriend is a yoga instructor.
Oh, yeah.
So I do lots of yoga and lots of breathing exercises, and the long tone exercise also is a great way to it's almost like a form of meditation.
I called it that on, I did a video on long tones a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, it's kind of your Zen moment to center yourself. So it's great to hear you say that.
Oh, good.
Get some vindication here.
Yeah. And is it okay if I just play that real
Please,
quick?
no, that'd
this
be great.
This is the exercise that I've been doing since 1980, and it's really great. So sounds really simple, but to be able to play it perfectly and the reason my teacher assigned it to me in high school was because he saw my embouchure moving around all the time.
Yep.
Between octaves.
Yep.
And he's like, look, don't compensate for that. You need to build your strength up from your diaphragm.
Yeah.
So you're not overcompensating with embouchure movement.
Yeah.
So this is a real important thing, and so abdominal exercises, breathing exercises, yoga, however you want to do it, building up that core, Pilates, doing your planks, get that abdominal region going. And there's a lot of people that studied martial arts would teach me, breathing exercises. There's lots of ways to get this information.
Yeah.
And different ways to get it, but if you can incorporate that into your long tone exercises, it's really crucial.
I'm gonna have to try that. I would say long tones is how I always start too, but I've not done that jump up thing. And I have fought for years. I'll sit in front of a mirror, and when I do that jump, I'll see a little movement there, and it's exactly what you're saying. I know it's a flaw, and I know I am compensating for not having that stability there. And been doing it for 30 years now, so it's increasingly hard to find. But that I've not tried that one. I've done some kind of similar stuff, but that's pretty cool. So so
that exercise, you do it chromatically,
Okay.
starting on your
Yeah.
low B flat all the way up the horn.
Sure.
And if you, and then setting a metronome and trying to get it as slow as possible.
Sure.
And then you can measure your progress by notating what metronome setting you are using. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
measure. You know what I mean? Keep
Yeah.
getting it
Yeah.
slower and slower to increase your lung capacity and
Yeah.
your
Do it without passing
long
out.
tone,
Yeah.
length. Yeah.
No, that's great. I've done the metronome thing, but yeah, I really like the jumping up in fifths thing. It's going to be a humbling experience the first time I try that, but I'm definitely going to try that. I love stuff like that that pushes you out of your comfort zone. I did some of the Joe Allard exercises with a teacher years ago, and
Oh man, he's so
it
great.
destroyed me. Like I still can't do most of them, but just trying to do them was such a huge help and fixed a lot of my problems. But
Yeah, I'm really glad there's that great Joe Allard website.
yeah, I've been
Allows
checking that out. That's super cool.
Yeah, really, really inspiring.
It's yeah, but what you're saying reminds me a lot of that kind of stuff. It's something that if you're doing it right, it's hard to cheat, which kind of makes you strengthen something that you've been putting off for the last number of years. So that's super cool. Any other practice tips? Any other stuff that like because that was great, but like
I practice a lot of major scales
yeah,
since so many other scales are somehow related,
sure,
not just natural minor
yeah,
scales of minor third down or something, but like they're very difficult, I
hmm.
find, in terms of how your hand works with the horn.
Mm.
So, especially, let's say E major, um, a lot of that Sukkus music
Mm.
that I had to play was E major. So
Yeah,
that's F sharp major for B flat
yeah.
tenor sax. So it's crazy. So, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Trying to get around and having your ornamentations fall into place
Mm.
rhythmically
Yeah.
and practicing with a metronome or a percussion track or something,
Yeah.
really strengthening that up. And also, there's a lot of the ornamentation can be very similar to a lot of Eastern European music, Balkan music.
Oh, yeah.
Like I
Yeah. Sure.
love Bulgarian music, like Ivo Popasov, the
Yeah.
clarinet
I've
player. Oh
only
my
listened to a
God.
little bit. I've worked with a few ridiculous Bulgarian musicians who they play some stuff, and yeah, it's some really hip stuff.
Oh my God. I mean,
They
I
have
was
a
so
crazy
lucky
music
to
scene
hear
there.
all those people in the 80s.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Well, you've made kind of made my day because I've done the two videos I did were long tones and metronome practicing recently because we're putting stuff out to schools, and I can point to this to emphasize, like, see,
Yeah, exactly.
it's not just me. And
Yeah.
yes, it sounds boring, but you got to do it anyway. And I don't know. Like you say, I think that kind of stuff. It sounds boring to talk about, but when you do it, it is a very meditative process. And I've always used that as kind of my like set the stage for like being serious and trying to get something done, hopefully. So
Yeah,
really cool to hear you say it.
and I'm an improviser.
Hmm.
So to be an improviser, you have to be ready for anything. So
Hmm.
for me, I'm constantly studying scales.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Scales and how they relate to different um, chord changes or drones,
Yeah,
etc., or different timbres and textures and sounds,
yeah,
non-musical sounds. So, um, just it's all about being prepared for me.
yeah,
Since
absolutely.
I'm not in a particular genre, as a symphonic musician or a jazz musician, I'm trying to be prepared as an improviser as best I can. So
Mm.
um, constantly listening and then constantly playing every day and just having very focused parameters to improvise within as exercises. And
Mm.
then, what may not sound like an exercise at first, all of a sudden it becomes kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, oh, what am I weak on right now?
yeah,
This, like starting a line on low C sharp. Like
yeah.
that's very difficult. So how do I wrote this tune. So
Mm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so just like strengthening or Lydian dominant kind of thing.
yeah,
Getting picking scales and stuff, and then instead of reading a book that has interpolations
mm.
like that great Yusuf Latif um, book of scales
Mm.
and rhythmic studies, and Eddie Harris book, so great too.
Yeah, yeah,
But just all I need is that raw information. What scale are you talking about? It's like
yeah,
a Japanese like 5 note pentatonic thing, or some
definitely.
more harmonic minor kind of thing. Just
Mm.
having fun with that sound and just
Yeah,
getting the most out of those shapes. And
yeah,
and you're going to stumble across stuff that really resonates with you the more you check it out.
yeah. No, that's super cool to hear. It's I think so many great players, what they're practicing makes it into their music. Not even if it's an exercise that they're practicing, not necessarily like a lot of the Brecker stuff and that where he's doing all the really crazy overtone and harmonic stuff. And I got to talk to him many years ago and got to ask him about that, and his answer was like, "Ah, it's just what I was doing in the practice room. I was doing a lot of overtone stuff, so I decided to start doing songs with it." And I think that sounds exactly what you're talking about is
Yeah, and
something
he's
that's
a real Coltrane disciple, and
oh yeah,
and he took those lessons, to heart,
hmm.
and really, it's when you blend Coltrane with Maceo Parker, that's how you get Kenny Garrett.
Yeah.
Those,
That's a perfect description. I'm a
yeah,
pretty big Kenny Garrett fan, but yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
exactly.
love Kenny. He's
But I also love those other
incredible.
two players, and that's just that
Yeah, and
certain
so
type of
when Coltrane and Stanley Turrentine, you get Michael Brecker, and
yeah,
Banjo Henderson and everything. I mean, Michael is so incredible with his
mm,
technical skills,
yeah,
just unbelievable.
yeah,
And I don't know if we'll ever see that again, probably, but
yeah. But
I mean
that's
I
one in a few million at least.
yeah, I used to look in his solos and study that stuff, and it's just like, wow, how is
I
he?
tried my hardest, but it always ended in defeat. Maybe it led to improvement, but man, yeah, you try to transcribe stuff or yeah, that's but anyway, yeah. Do you do much transcription anymore, or is it more you're kind
All the
of
time.
yeah? No, that's good to hear. Yeah,
I'm always trying to learn some stuff. I'm always hearing stuff like, wow, what's that?
yeah,
I want to play that, and it's not necessarily always saxophone players,
sure, yeah,
but I've been listening to a lot of Gene Ammons lately, a lot of
yeah,
Stanley Turrentine,
nice.
and I love organ music, Hammond organ,
Yeah, yeah.
like soul music and jazz and everything.
Oh yeah, stuff's great.
So Jimmy Smith
Yeah, yeah,
and Jack McDuff and all these people, and
yeah.
I'm friends with a lot of organists. I own an organ back there. I got a Hammond A100 and a
Nice.
Leslie. And I just love that sound, and so
Yeah, I agree.
I'm always learning tunes and playing along with those records. It's a lot
Do
of
you write it
fun.
out much, or are you more just doing it up here?
Mostly just memorizing.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
found that
mean,
better for me too.
I find these days it's if I can't figure something out from listening to it, I'll just use a slow downer
Sure. Yeah.
or
Yeah,
something,
those
and
are
then
handy.
just get it slow, and then you can always work it out that way. But you really have to memorize it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have tons of books. I
Yeah.
collect some music books. So I have a lot of transcriptions of Ornette stuff and
Yeah.
Coltrane, Wayne Shorter, and Joe Henderson, everything. And so, sometimes it's fun to look in there,
Yeah.
but it's way more fun to just sit sit there with the recording and just hash it out
Yeah.
the long and hard way.
Yeah. I think it sticks more. I think you're right. I tried the books mostly first, and it was only when I finally decided to not be lazy and dig in that I said we got more benefit out of it. But yeah, very
Well, yeah, and
cool.
then those people are playing with incredible musicians. So
Mm.
you're not only getting all the benefit from transcribing a solo from someone like a Wayne Shorter song, but
Mm.
you're at the same time you're listening to all these other great musicians,
That's a
Elvin
good point. Yeah.
Jones or Reggie Workman or something, or
Yeah.
Herbie Hancock. So
Yeah.
you know that that is a totally positive influence too.
Yeah.
So the process is not just um, contained to just the saxophone information.
Yeah.
That's what I want other younger saxophone players too. It's like, you know, listen to other kinds of music. Don't get caught
Yeah.
into this just mono culture of,
Yep.
the saxophone is so inextricably associated with jazz,
Yeah.
and yet it sounds good playing so many other kinds of music.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you're totally
So
right. Like you'll see these incredible college players, no offense, incredible college players, but coming out of school and they can destroy on bop, and then you have them play on a funk or a rock tune and they're still playing bop, or that, it's
yeah,
you see it a lot. And I think there's merit into, oh, have you listened to King Curtis a lot? How much Lenny Pickett? Who? That kind of stuff. And I think you're absolutely right.
yeah. So yeah, the jazz arms race is definitely not
That's
always,
a good way to
because
put
I
it.
think in this culture, there's people associate things with competition,
Mm,
and I feel like a lot of music education has become more akin to sports
yeah. Okay.
or
There's something to
things like
that. I
that.
think.
You have to remember these people that, let's say, Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, Dizzy
Mm,
Gillespie, Charlie Parker. These people were interested in art.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, the, just art in general. Living
Mm,
in New York and going to Europe and stuff, and seeing architecture, and studying Pablo Picasso, or
yeah.
Salvador Dali, or painters that were friends of theirs at the
Mm,
time, or and philosophical concepts, and writers and
yeah.
books, and these are the things that shape the direction of music.
Yeah.
Being able to play Cherokee changes, at 200 BPM or whatever, is not that's not you're not contributing anything to art and the progression of music. You're
Mm,
just, it becomes very insular, and
mm.
just this athletic kind of thing.
Yeah. He was
It's
training
not.
to be a machine, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
like, no, that's not going to take music to the next place, to the next level.
yeah.
So I remember Michael Brecker when he was touring around playing with colleges. He was
Mm,
like, "Don't listen to me.
yeah.
Listen to who I listen to.
I've heard him say that. Yeah.
Yeah, make
Yeah.
the funnel bigger.
Yep.
Like, make your influences bigger, and find out how you know the study of other art forms can inform your music.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No, it's super interesting stuff. And it's something as I've gotten older, you realize more and more, and not everybody does, but I've become way more in line with what you're saying. And it's like, it, the competitive nature of music has bothered me more and more. There's so much great stuff out there that isn't just about chops and isn't just about, like you say, how fast you can play giant steps or Cherokee or one of those.
mm-hmm.
There's more to life than that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's exciting. When I was young, I was always looking for the fastest,
Oh,
craziest stuff. You
yep.
know, I was
It's
a
attractive.
super Michael Brecker head and everything.
Yep.
But I was also into Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix and stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's a being opening yourself up to other influences and
Mm.
keeping an open mind. It's really that's the way.
Yeah, that makes
That's
sense.
what's going to give you your own style, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, this is super fun. I think we're past an hour already. That kind of flew by, but I should probably wrap it up and let you get to your next stuff. And unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about, I know we talked about your album. Have any other cool stuff coming up? I'll link to it in the comments on this as well. But
Oh yeah,
yeah,
well
any
I'm
exciting
planning
stuff?
another big solo show May 29th. Is will this interview be published before then?
I believe I'll have it up tomorrow. So if you're watching
Oh,
this right
cool.
now, we recorded yesterday.
Yeah. So May 29th at liveconcertstream.com.
Cool.
I'm going to be doing this crazy huge solo show with this rig. I think you
Hmm.
can kind of see it
Yeah,
back
yeah.
there.
Nice.
But all these harmonizers and effects and keyboards and drum machines and drones and all this crazy
Yeah.
stuff.
Have to check it out.
And this when I do the stream, you can see the green screen there.
Mm.
So there's going to be there's visual artists come over.
Oh,
The
wow.
guy from Carlos from Astral Media Labs, he comes. It's a high quality audio stereo feed. It's not just an iPhone thing. There's super
Sure.
high quality cameras um and great audio conversion that's coming right off the DI stereo DI from my rig. And there's an outdoor stage. We have this window here,
Hmm.
and it's all fully lit up. I'm gonna have these performers there and
Wow.
singers. Yeah,
It's a huge production.
yeah, it's
That's
really
cool.
fun.
Yeah,
It's
that sounds
very
awesome.
much like a big influence from Critters Buggin' days.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So you'll have the links to that on all your social media stuff and all that?
Oh
If people
yeah,
want to check it out. Cool, because I want to
yeah, and
link
the
to that and share
website
it. And
skerikmusic.com and all that.
fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Well, hey man, thank you so much for joining. This is really cool. I've never done an online interview before, but this was a lot of fun. Really cool to get your insight on everything and to
Yeah.
chat with you.
Yeah, let's do one with your friend sometime. We can do one with the rig.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, it was a bummer. Our other saxophone guy has been a longtime fan, and when we thought he might be able to join, he got excited, but we had internet problems. So,
Oh
but
yeah, no, that's definitely something we're learning a lot with the live stream game.
yeah,
It's got to be Ethernet and real solid.
yep. And I got cable strung all over my house, but it was certainly
Yep,
worth it. So,
me too.
nice. Well, hey, thank you again so much, and yeah, well, looking forward to this the next shot.
Right on, David. Thanks
Cool.
again, man.
Yeah, thank you.